So hello, good evening. Welcome to Aro Ling Cardiff. This evening, Ngakpa Nor'dzin is talking to us about the syllable hung.
Good evening. This is to some extent a continuation of the teachings on Doji Tsigdun, because these teachings were given at the same time as a description of the practices that were contained within the syllable hung at the beginning of Doji Tsigdun. We could probably have the... Do you
want it right from the beginning? So I'm going to go back to sharing screen now because Ngakpa has a chart.
Just the one page. So the syllable hung contains within itself the essence of refuge, bodhicitta, the transformation of the five elements, and the liberation of the six realms. And in the teachings on Doji Tsigdun, we mentioned that Doji Tsigdun contains all practices, and this is an example of an essentialized practice, so that there would be, if we understood the meaning of hung, there's no need for long sadhanas of taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, and so on. It is all here already. I wanted to say a little bit to begin with about the way it's written and the way it's pronounced. In terms of pronunciation, it is hung, although you will see it sometimes written as hum. The hum comes from the Sanskrit, where the M is nasalized, and this is not a common sound amongst Tibetans, so it becomes hung when spoken by Tibetans, and the way we say it is the way that we receive it. So because Ngakchen Rinpoche received the transmission of hung from Tibetans, then hung is the way we say it, and we will continue with that because that's the line of transmission. In terms of the way it's written, it's not entirely a Tibetan syllable. It works a little bit differently. So if you look at the third part down, the ha, there's the Tibetan letter ha, and that gives the main sound of it. Underneath that is the little r, the r chung, and that extends the length of the syllable. Underneath that is the u, the shabju mark. So altogether that would make hu. And then on top is the tigle and crescent moon. And this, in this instance, brings it together to make the hung sound. So if it were written as a actual Tibetan word, it would be written slightly different to this. Because it's a mantric syllable, it's written with the moon and the tigle making the hung, or rather the sound. And after that, there's the tema mark, the tersheg, showing that the syllable itself comes from terma, which are revealed teachings. So if we look at this syllable, first of all, we'll look at it in terms of refuge. And we begin with the ha. The ha is symbolic of outer refuge. Outer refuge is the refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Outer refuge is Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, not simply in terms of the Buddha, the historical Buddha, what the Buddha taught, and the community of monastic practitioners. It goes beyond that. Buddha itself means complete open wakefulness. If we find that we have realized this, then we are also Buddha. But in terms of refuge, then complete open wakefulness is the confidence, is having the confidence that that is there for us to be realized. So in some ways, refuge, all refuge is the refuge of no refuge, because we are not hiding away from anything. So we take refuge in complete open wakefulness, which is being totally present, rather than finding that we have anything to hide. Dharma, or Chö, is as it is, as things are, the nature of reality itself. So we take refuge in being present with the nature of reality, be present with things as they are. And finally, we take refuge in Sangha, or Gendun, which is our community of fellow practitioners, but they're in a sense, our unreliable friends, because they're very supportive to us in terms of practice, but very unsupportive in terms of our neuroses. So if we have a tendency to go off on a rant about something and indulge ourselves in some way, they're the people who won't be supporting us in that. And they're the people who will steer us back towards practice. So this is outer refuge, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. One of the things I very much like about the way Buddhism is taught is for those people for whom Buddha, Dharma and Sangha are the historical Buddha, are the teachings of the historical Buddha, and are the Sangha of the historical Buddha, they're all still there. And for those people who have those as meanings, the same refuge still applies. But for us, it's the essential nature, complete open wakefulness, the nature of reality as it is itself, and our unreliable or reliably unreliable fellow practitioners. The U symbol, the Shabju, represents inner refuge, and the inner refuge is in Lama, Yidam, and Khandro Pawol. Lama is the root of wisdom. When we take refuge in Lama, again, we're taking refuge in our wisdom, our beginningless enlightened nature. But the Lama is important here because it's the external Lama who reflects our internal Lama. In order to take refuge in the internal Lama, our own beginningless enlightened state, we have to see that reflected for us in the external Lama, and that is what the Lama does for us. So this is the root of wisdom. The Yidam is the root of power, and the Yidam, we are introduced to the Yidam by the Lama, is the liberated nature of one's own condition. So one's own condition is already full of power, but we tend to take our own condition off in neurotic directions. And it's the Yidam, the practice of the Yidam form, which is the liberated nature of our own condition. And thereby it's the root of power because it liberates that power as part of our practice. And Khandro Pawol, so in the inner refuge, we take refuge in Khandro Pawol, are the root of inspiration. Again, this is bringing everything back to us and not hiding away, because the khandras and powers are seen as our life circumstances, and for a practitioner, taking our life circumstances themselves as practice, so that we're not distracted from practice by life circumstances, because whatever arises in our lives is our practice. And so these are seen as the activities of the khandras and powers, and this is the root of our inspiration, that our own life circumstances are inspiring in terms of practice. The ma, which is the combination of the moon and the tigle, this is the ma, or the ng sound in the syllable. This is the secret refuge in tigle, lung and sa, and it's called the secret refuge because it's self-secret. If we don't have experience of tigle, lung and sa, which are aspects of the energetic body, if we don't have experience of that in some fashion, then it remains a secret. But it's a secret that's there to be discovered. So it's not secret always. It's something that we can discover through practice. And the practices are those like kunye. The practices are those which put us in contact with the tigle, lung and sa that exist in terms of our energetic body, our energetic nature. And lastly, the achung, the little r, is the ultimate nature of refuge. And this is explained as refuge in Nowo, Rangjin and Tugje, our essence, nature and energy. And the essence here is empty, the nature is clear, and the energy is unimpeded. And this is in some ways more secret than the secret refuge, because it's further beyond general understanding, and it's refuge in terms of Dzogchen, and it's refuge in terms of the enlightened nature itself. So this is how the hung reminds us of refuge, and this is how we can practice all the levels of refuge through the sound of the syllable hung. We then can look at the 5 elements. The 5 elements are arranged in the hung. The hung itself can be colored, and the 5 elements are arranged from space through to earth, top to bottom. The tigle is blue and represents the space element. Now, in the teachings of the elements, they represent both our neurotic emotions and the liberated qualities of the emotions. They represent the initial reaction to space, I've forgotten the words now. They represent how we first of all perceive space, how we react to it, and the liberated quality. So in terms of the space element itself, there's bewilderment. This can give rise to a reaction of depression, and its liberated quality is unlimited intelligence. So each of the elements has these qualities that they represent some aspect of our being, some aspect of our functioning, and they represent both the distorted neurotic qualities and our liberated qualities. So if we look at the air element, then the air element is one where the sense is one, or the distorted sense is one of groundless anxiety, the sense that something is wrong, but we don't know what it is. And we're looking for, or can be looking for, the cause of that distortion, the cause of that anxiety. And so this gives rise to the sense of suspicion or paranoia, because we are continually looking for the source of our anxiety, which may actually have no source that's out there. And so our reaction in terms of looking for a cause is itself just winding us up more and more. Through the understanding of the nature of the air element, we can transform that paranoia, that sense of suspicion, into self-accomplished activity. So all the activity of the air element becomes liberated and can accomplish whatever it sets out to accomplish. So these I'm being deliberately quite brief here, because these teachings are given elsewhere in much more detail. So the air element is represented by the moon, which is green in that particular coloured version of the hum. Then we come to the fire element, which is represented by the ha, and this is red. And the fire element is one where our reaction is one of a sense of isolation, and our tendency is towards consumption. So you can see here how the element itself has those qualities. The fire element is one which will continue to consume until there's nothing left to consume. So this is our nature if we are a fire element neurotic. First of all, the sense of isolation, being on one's own, and then wanting to continually unite with anything that will help to comfort that feeling. But just as fire has these destructive tendencies, it's also the element of indiscriminate warmth. So whenever there is fire, everyone is warmed by it, so that you have the liberated quality of connection and compassion towards everyone. The achung is white and represents the water element. The neurotic nature of the water element is one of perceiving a direct threat, unlike the air element where things are just off and you think there's a cause for it and it's groundless. With the water element, the threat is much more immediate and obvious. Somebody is about to attack you, is what seems to be happening, either verbally or physically. And the reaction towards that is a defense mechanism, and it's one of anger, and it's putting up those angry defenses towards what's coming towards you. But within the energy of anger, there is clarity. You clearly see what's happening. You clearly see what the threat is, and it's that energy. It's that clear energy that is the liberated quality of that emotion. So we can then transform the sense of anger into one of clarity. And lastly here we have the earth element, which is yellow and represented by the shabju, the aspect of the hung that gives it the ö-Dzin. And the earth neurotic has a hollowness, insubstantiality as their neurosis. And the reaction is one of territoriality. They're because they feel insubstantial, they want to make more territory, to make themselves bigger, more solid. And this can be physical territory or can be intellectual territory. Depends on how the sense of insubstantiality is perceived. But once somebody is able to transform the earth element, they see that they have entirely sufficient ground for themselves and for others as well. And so the transformed emotion is one of generosity and equanimity. So everyone is treated equally, everyone is treated with generosity. So you can see that these aspects of the elements as shown in this, they're in the same order as you'll find them in the Churton as well. Space going down to the earth element. And then lastly, we have the 6 realms. And in this symbolism, the terma mark is also brought in as an aspect of the symbolism. So if we start from the top, we have the God realm, which is represented by an off-white tigle. All of the elements in terms of the realms, all of the colours in terms of the realms are slightly off. Pure colours, slightly away from that. So the God realm, represented by the off-white tigle, is the slowest realm in the 6 realms, and it's the realm of bliss, the realm of the person who's really made it, and the realm of someone who sees that they have basically nothing they need to do because it's all there. So it's a realm where people don't practice because they have everything they want and everything is perfect. As with any of the realms, they have a lifespan, and the God realm is the one of the greatest lifespan. Everything moves in a very slow fashion, but eventually does end. And so the God realm has been like something of a holiday, but it's not been a period of time where anything's been realized. The jealous gods are represented by the olive green crescent moon. And these are people who want to be the gods. They've had a glimpse of what heaven looks like. It looks better than where they are. And there's a sense of struggle about them. They want to become like the gods. Although the advice that's coming down from the gods is just relax, everything's fine, there's nothing the matter, you don't have to. But they don't see their condition as one where that's anything that they can understand. So there's a great deal of struggle going on in terms of the God realm. This is upwardly mobile middle management, for example. The people who see what the benefits are for whoever's running the company and at least wants to make it onto the board. They want the company car, they want the perks, and they want the status. So these are the jealous gods, again, overwhelmed by their desire to move upwards and overwhelmed by their struggle. And they're not going to find any reason or time for practice. Then we have the human realm, which is represented by the dusky red Ha. And this is the realm of balance between aspects of irritation, the possibility of practice, the possibility of having another view of our situation, the possibility of having a sense of humor about our situation. And it's the one realm that's the most conducive to practice. Because we have this balance, we've got some space to see what's happening if we want to ask questions about how we are, the way we are. So this is not liberation, but it's a place where liberation might be more possible than some of the other realms. The Achung represents the animal realm and is pale yellow. And the animal realm is the one of sort of blinkeredness. You might see the sheep or the pig that's spending all its time with its head down and just getting on with eating, and not really looking up and around itself in order to be able to see more of its world, see more of what's going on. And it's a realm where what's sought most is certainty. So it's the realm of the fundamentalist, because it's the realm where questions aren't really allowed. I know how things are. That's how they are. This is what we're going to do. This is my reaction to every situation. There is no chink in the armor of the fundamentalist, and they're not interested in discussion or anyone else's point of view. So there's certainly no room there for questions, particularly about the nature of life, and there's no room there for humor either, because humor plays with things having potentially different meanings. So the fundamentalist or the animal realm mentality doesn't particularly want to play around with things having different meanings. And then the the Shabchu, represents the Yidag realm and is brown in color. The Yidag realm, or as Ngakpa Rinpoche calls it, the realm of the intellectual, is the realm of those poor beings who have enormous capacity in terms of what they can take into their mouths, but they can't swallow it or digest it. So the reason why Ngakpa Rinpoche calls this the realm of the intellectuals, that they can take in huge amounts of facts, but never digest it to the extent that it turns into realization or becomes an aspect of practice. And these are the beings that we remember, particularly in the Dzog feast practice, where we put out food for them, hopefully in some form that they can recognize as some kind of nourishment. And lastly, here we have the hells, the various hot and cold hells, and these are represented by the Terma mark, which is black. The hell realm is one of continuous pain, and the struggle to escape from pain creates more pain. It's the fastest realm in terms of the action and reaction. So while the God realm is slow and languorous and everything takes a long time, for the hell being, everything happens very quickly. And this is a realm where there's no spaciousness. There's no space to pause, because we are so busy trying to fight off the causes of our pain. So this is how the hung represents the 6 realms, and through the practice of the syllable hung, we can gradually purify each realm, so that the color then changes from being off-white to being a pure red, white and blue, which is the colors of the Vajra body. So we can gradually practice for the benefit of those beings in whatever state they're in order to purify their view of their existence and allow them to become liberated. There's a Buddha in every realm, so there's the possibility of liberation from those realms at any time. But as I say, from a human point of view, from a human understanding, there are more possibilities within the human realm. So this is this and the 5 elements as well are an aspect of practice in terms of bodhicitta, because we practice either the transformation of the elements, or we practice for the liberation of the realms for ourselves and for all beings. So we offer that as our practice. So in this way, the syllable hung contains refuge and bodhicitta. So in conclusion, when we practice the syllable hung, we're not actually thinking about all of these things. It would be too much to consider all of these. But the idea is that we know that they're there. We study them from time to time, and of course you can go into endless detail about these things. And then when we practice hung, there is a felt sense of it all coming together. There's a felt sense of this being the sound of the lived meaning of these teachings. Ngakpa Rinpoche likens it to either perhaps hearing the name or seeing a picture of your partner, and everything is there all at once. You don't have to start enumerating.
Take this off.
Oh yes, thank you. You don't have to start enumerating. Oh, there you are. How tall they are, what they look like, how they dress, the holidays you had in Tenby. You don't do that, because what you have instead is the lived meaning of your partner and the lived meaning of your relationship with your partner. So the same is true in terms of the syllable hung. As these aspects of practice become part of us, become part of the lived meaning of who we are, then the sound of the syllable hung carries with it all of that. So it carries with it all the levels of refuge. It carries with it the transformation of all the emotions, and it carries with it the liberation of all the realms.
I think this is a very good example of how Vajrayana practice doesn't abandon Sutrayana practice, because this is something that Vajrayana practitioners or practice is sometimes accused of, that it doesn't contain the teachings on looking after other beings and considering other beings' situation and so on, because one is arising as a yidam and practices to do with Salung and things like that. They're more subtle, if you like. But I think this is a very useful reminder that that is because that should be the ground of anything anyway. It isn't that you've left it behind. It's just that that should be your continual motivation for anything you practice. But it's good to be reminded of that sometimes by looking at this.
Yes, I agree entirely. I think that's very well put. Yes, the practice isn't just the practice. The practice is also the motivation that goes into the practice. And so a tantric or dzogchen practice that is undertaken for oneself alone is at best a pratyeka practice.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that sense.
I think especially in the Aro lineage, because we don't practice long sadhanas or Trubtab, where we are chanting a verse to generate refuge in bodhicitta. It's very important for us to understand that it is still there in its essentialized form, and look at this occasionally to remind ourselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you.